We're discussing Venezuela again following last weekend's American operation. And when talking about the attacks on the country, President Donald Trump mentioned the criminal group, Tren de Aragua. The faction is already operating in at least 6 Brazilian states.
Diosdado Cabello took over the leadership of the Chavista regime after Nicolas Maduro was arrested. He has already ordered the Tren de Aragua to take control of illegal routes, mining sites, rivers, and crossings along the border with Brazil and Colombia. The order is clear: expand the faction's control and turn Brazilian border cities into strategic points of power. Brazilian authorities confirmed that the Tren de Aragua is already operating in 6 states in the country, with a stronger presence in Roraima. The faction's operations are decentralized, making agreements with local criminal groups and taking advantage of the vulnerability of migration routes. In Pacaraima, where thousands of Venezuelans are trying to escape the crisis. Given the limited presence of the Brazilian army in the region, doubts are growing among the Brazilian population about how far the government will allow the advance of factions led by Diosdado Cabello within the country. Welcome to life in the barracks. The Aragua train charges fees and extorts the very migrants fleeing Venezuela, turning desperation into a source of profit. This practice reinforces the brutal nature of the faction and shows how Cabello uses human suffering as a tool for control and funding. The Aragua train originated in Aragua state, northern Venezuela, and since the 2010s, it has grown to become the main criminal organization in the country, having expanded to Colombia, Chile, Peru, and Brazil.
United States attacks on vessels are increasing tensions in the Caribbean Sea and Pacific, centered around a Venezuelan criminal faction.
What is the Tren de Aragua? A group that has spread throughout the Americas, leaving traces of violence in several countries, and that is now also operating in Brazil.
Currently, under the Chavista regime's influence, the Tren de Aragua is growing as a transnational threat, leading the Donald Trump administration to authorize the deployment of American military troops to act directly against the faction. In a recent statement, Donald Trump directly mentioned the Tren de Aragua when justifying military operations against the Maduro regime. According to him, members of the faction were sent to the United States to terrorize American communities, increasing the group's international visibility and reinforcing the pressure for coordinated actions. In Brazil, expansion accelerated in 2022, reaching indigenous areas and the prison system. Boa Vista, the capital of Roraima, started to see organized faction activity linked to migration and secret border trails.
The $7 million price for what he wants to do, to set it on fire, because that's really powerful. You get it?
Yeah, he wants to break into the God house,
With the CIA tracking the Aragua train globally, it's believed the agency is already active in Brazil. In order to prevent both the expansion of the faction and the creation of new trafficking routes to the United States, the presence of the CIA on Brazilian soil is surrounded by mystery. Reports indicate that undercover agents operate in strategic areas such as technology, energy, and security. This monitoring network reinforces the idea that Brazil is on the global radar of American intelligence. International pressure is growing under the Chavista regime, but the current Brazilian government has shown itself to be inert in containing illegal advances in border areas. The current Brazilian president fears that Donald Trump will authorize military or intelligence operations inside Brazil with the aim of neutralizing the Aragua train. Experts say that a United States operation against the Aragua train inside Brazil does not necessarily have to be a military action. Intelligence actions can undermine the structure of the faction, disrupting its connections and weakening its ability to expand. Meanwhile, the Brazilian people, especially in Roraima, are demanding more concrete answers from the armed forces.
The brigade, which is headquartered in Boa Vista, Roraima, is responsible for the border area with Venezuela and Guyana. Operations along the border to combat cross-border and environmental crimes are also carried out by the brigade here in this region.
The history of invasions by Venezuelan factions is long-standing, and the patience of the border population has already reached its limit. The Brazilian army maintains border platoons in the region, but the contingent is insufficient to patrol the entire border with Venezuela. Given the escalation of violence and international pressure, the need to reinforce Brazil's borders is urgent. In early 2026, the governor of Roraima met with Amazon Military Command's General Viana Filho to discuss strategic measures. The meeting sought to coordinate actions amid rising instability in Venezuela and the Aragua train's regional threat. Pacarima has become a symbol of chaos, where the city faces a wave of desperate migrants and the violence imposed by the gang that charges illegal tolls to the Venezuelan people and enforces its own laws on the escape routes. The expansion of the Tren de Aragua into Brazil shows how Diosdado Cabello uses organized crime as an extension of the Chavista regime. The goal is clear: dominate routes, control territories, and expand Venezuela's political and military power. The military narrative unfolding at the border is one of imminent confrontation between armed factions and Brazilian military forces.
Thank you, good night. This is the military police of the state of Roraima by order of the state government. We are reinforcing policing here in Pacarima, policing in the commercial corridor, policing nearby along the edges of the clandestine paths of the alternative crossings.
Will the current Brazilian government take a stronger stance and send more military personnel to the border areas? Or will everything remain the same with the increase in violence in cities like Pacarima? Share your opinion in the comments and join the discussion. At Vida's Barracks, you stay updated on all military news. Like, subscribe, and watch a video on your screen.